Good evening, and welcome to Covenant Presbyterian Church and Covenant Cafe. Tonight we're in fantasy land. I won't tell you, what I'm looking at is absolutely incredible, but last week we had Jim Eaton cooking a fantastic salmon dish, and I'll tell you, after it was over, we got a turn on and I got a chance to sample that, and it was really, really excellent. I hope some of you at home got a chance to try it. Tonight we have Mr. Bircher with us, and most of you I think know him. He's been a member here at Covenant for 30 years now. A lot of you remember is Mr. Usher. He's usually out there helping with the ushering on Sunday mornings. But tonight he's going to talk to us about small wood therapy. And I got to tell you, sitting here looking at the stuff, I am just absolutely blown away by what he has done with a small piece of wood. So, Christopher, tell us a little about what you got here. I see a lot of things here and a lot of different scales, a lot of different sizes. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it all started when I was working in a court system and had to sit through some cases that I needed something for release from it, so that became my therapy. I didn't really do much research on it, so I decided that pine 2x4s was the best way to go. So I took some 2x4s and milled them down and then made a table.
Okay.
After the table, I decided, well, need a chair with it. So I've made the sides and the legs, and kind of rudimentary, but this was a long time ago. And after doing some research then, I realized that pine really was not the best way to go. So I invested in a little bit of what's called basswood. It's a little denser than balsa, but it's easier to work with and carve. And after that, then, well, I changed jobs, then my daughter was born, then I became a stay-at-home dad, and she decided that, hey, I've got Barbie, and Barbie needs some stuff, and Dad looks like he might be a little handy with it. So one thing led to another, and this is where we're at.
Now you call this basswood, so that's a specific species or tree, and it's I guess it's very easy to work with what you're doing versus pine or some other species.
Correct.
And where do you get basswood?
I used to buy it there at AC Moore when they were still around. Michael's has some, or you can, of course,
So it's known as a hobby wood.
It's known as a hobby wood, yes.
Okay.
And you can also buy a harder wood, which you can do with some things, but I try to stick with just the basswood because it's easier to manipulate and do things that you want to do.
Okay. Well, you mentioned this is therapy for you, but what got you to get into this? I know you've been doing the paper cutting for a lot longer. What, I guess, precipitated you to get into this particular hobby with the small wood?
That's a darn good question. I guess I've always liked miniatures, and one of the best miniatures, since most of you who know me, I like Legos, but furniture. And I've been fascinated, been in a couple museums where they've had big houses, well, big relatively speaking, but miniatures, and it was one of those, wow, I wonder if I could do that.
Okay.
And a lot of it is, well, trial and error, and sometimes a lot more error than trial, but we keep going.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask you questions, but for you out there viewing on streaming, if you have a question, please put it down in your comments section, and we'll try to get an answer for you. I noticed you got different sizes of pieces here, and I guess you told me you were making a dollhouse for your daughter? Was that what, I guess you started the dollhouses, or?
Well, she had a dollhouse for Barbie. And then she decided that Barbie needed a dollhouse. So that precipitated the making of a dollhouse, which has a kitchen, a living room, bathroom, a couple bedrooms, and then there's a flight of stairs. All the windows have actual window in it and curtains. On the side, there's a nice rose arbor. The kitchen has every accoutrement that it should have. The stove, the refrigerator, the bathroom has a bathtub with a scooped out bath, and there's a toilet beside it. And then she informed me that, of course...
Wait, Paul, can you see in there from there? I don't know whether you can hold it up just right. No, there it is.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those, you really gotta be here to look at it, but was informed that the house needed some furniture, so we came with beds. There's a small grandfather clock, a big grandfather clock, TV table, a coffee table, the couch, end tables with lamps, a dresser with a mirror, a couple other hutches, another dresser. And then she told me that the dollhouse needed a dollhouse of its own, so. That one was, I scooped out for the porch on the front, but after that, it was just all painted. That was as far as I could go.
All right, I'm seeing a lamp over there, really, really small, right next, just off the penny. There's a little bitty lamp behind the grandfather clock. Yeah. See if you can get that where you can see a little bit of that there. How in the world did you make that? That is beyond small.
Well, the first time I did the end tables, I just did the end tables, then realized, well, my end tables at my house have lamps on them, so I had to throw those away and then recarve it to put the lamps on it. But to answer your question, I do a lot of my work without my glasses on. It irritates my eye doctor, but I can get real fine and up close and do some detailed work on it.
Do you use any type of magnifier or, those type of glasses where you have magnifying lens? Does that help?
I've never tried.
Wow. Wow.
I bought one pack of basswood one time, and it had a broken off piece of wood, and I got ready to cut it and throw it away, and then was looking at it and decided, you know what, I bet that would make an interesting looking table lamp for Barbie. So I had to carve out a base for it, but then made it into a lamp.
So you were going to throw that away, but kept it?
Yes. And then, of course, my daughter decided that she would make the lampshades for it.
Okay, so I see a lot of different collections, I guess I'll call them, that you have. I mean, here you seem to have some artwork that you've done into that scale, and there's a quarter right here. If you look, most people can give you some idea of scale. But this is on an easel, and not only is the frame miniature, but he has actually done art, painted on these. I noticed you didn't sign any of them, but that's okay, I guess. But it's really interesting you go that small.
Well, my brush only goes so far.
Yeah, I know, but the fine line detail on your art with that small, most people can't get on actual size art. So I mean, it's just amazing that you can do that small line detail. And also you have you have a washer and a dryer.
Yes, I was informed by my daughter that Barbie's clothes were dirty and they needed to be washed, so she needed a washer and a dryer, so I was having to make the washer and the dryer. And of course, then we use all detergent at home with, what was that one? Oh, that was Downy,
Yeah.
fabric softener. The Clorox tube, the shout sheets to keep all the stuff from bleeding onto each other, and then last but not least, I keep dropping everything, the Bounce dryer sheets, and all of it I tried to paint it up as best I could to where every side, if you looked at it, it kind of looked like the original. These came from larger pieces of the basswood and then had to work them down to where it actually looked like what they're supposed to. Of course, it's easy with the square boxes. You just cut a piece and then just paint it up. Like my Zesty crackers, that one was easy. All I had to do was figure out about how big to cut the piece of wood and then sit down and paint. Ooh, and I think I forgot one thing with my laundry was my tub of OxyClean.
OxyClean, okay.
Yep, and of course, all the doors open and close there.
I know you brought some of your tools. Why don't you share with us some of the tools that you use to make these pieces? If you have a brush, that would be great, but kind of show us.
Oh, I kind of forgot the brush.
Show us what you got. I'm curious how you make these things, what kind of tools you use.
One important thing, and I thought I had the other one, which has a case on it that I can unscrew and it'll have all the drill bits, but is a pin drill. It's just a little tiny drill that has little itty bitty bits on it, and that's what I use to drill small holes in it. I also use that sometimes for the paper cutting. When I need real small holes, I'll do that. Some of the other that we use are going to be some small size chisels, which these are relatively easy to find. But when you're starting to get down even smaller, then you have to wind up with what they list as micro chisels, which I don't know if you can see how small the blades of them are, as opposed to, you know, these are pretty small blades, but this gets real down into small detailed work. And then I usually just use acrylic paint, and depending on what I'm doing, the brush size varies. One of the other things I had to try to figure out was how exactly do you make a hinge? Those had hinges on it, but that was my third and fourth hinge. The first hinge was Barbie needed a toolbox. And of course, any good toolbox has a caddy on the top, and then a little lever so that you can leave the door open.
Amazing.
So I had to figure out how exactly to do the hinges. And this was a two-piece hinge because I wasn't sure exactly how to do it. Worked with it, made my hinges, and then set the hinges into the wood.
Now those are little bitty tools that you made with your tools. I don't know if you can get these where Plano can see these. These are just absolutely amazing that you can make something that small. Just sit them down.
Would it be better right there?
Yeah, probably. Can you get that Plano? That I think it would. It's just, those are tiny. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I guess the first question is, how do you hold something that small? You got a device you put them in, like a small vise, or how do you do that?
I usually just use my fingers.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yes. And
Your
from time to time, they get nicked.
You got the little bitty things up, your chubby little fingers.
With my chubby little fingers, yeah, we do that.
Okay. All right, well, I can see what you're doing, but it's just, I wouldn't even know where to start with something like that, but I guess the more we do, I guess maybe the easier to get, or you learn things from one that you can use on the next.
You learn things, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said with this one, I did the hinges and then out of one piece of wood and then put it onto that one. That told me all I really needed to do was, and this is a cedar chest made out of actual cedar.
Yeah.
So I made the hinge out with this piece of wood here, so it was all just one piece. And then I had to really figure out how you drill in from both sides so I could put a thin piece of metal rod through there. And sometimes I shake, so it's real fun trying to keep them level and straight. But
You did.
it opens and closes, so.
So you've got a real small little piece of metal as your hinge pin in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that you can pick up at a hobby shop.
So for instance, okay, the Cedar Chest, how long did it take you to make that average? I mean, would you say, how long did it, from start to finish?
Start to finish, probably about 12 hours.
12 hours.
Yeah.
What about one of the little tools up front?
Those probably took 45 minutes, an hour, depending on the tool. But you were asking about the metal for the,
Coping saw.
yeah. But the metal for the hinges is the same metal that I use to form my coping saw.
Where did you get that?
The hobby shop.
Okay, they have small metal. Okay,
Yeah.
And then the painting, you use the fine line, I guess, detail brush for most of that, and you just sit there and paint real slowly, I guess?
Paint real slowly, yeah.
Wow.
And all of the food stuff that I painted, you do it in layers.
Well, can you get a close-up of that without seeing my dirty fingernails?
Yeah, when Jenna got Ken for Christmas one year, she told me that Ken needed man food, so she wanted some pizza.
I don't know if you see this at home, but that's a Little Caesar's pizza box. I mean, it's got the logo, everything, it even has the numbers, numbers on the back of the box. He duplicated those as well, so that's just amazing. I don't know how you have the patience, Christopher, to sit down and do that, but I can see where that would be therapy with the time that you spend on it. And I guess it's like any hobby, it's you get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
Okay.
And like the paper cutting too, I'd never make the money to sell it, to make it worthwhile to do it, but it's the pleasure of doing it.
Yeah.
Was told that I needed to make a chest of drawers. And of course, trying to figure out, all right, with the chest of drawers, most of the Barbie stuff you see looks like this, but that's as far as it goes. It's like, well, most good chests of drawers have brass pulls. So where do I find the brass pulls?
Brass pulls.
Yep. So that way you can open up each individual drawer. As I figured, you know what, if it's gonna be a chest of drawers, it's gonna look like a real chest of drawers. So my muse talked to me, and I went to Lowe's and found little brass brads, cut them off, drilled a hole, glued them, and stuck them in.
And you said, who talked to you?
My muse,
Your muse.
yes.
Who's your muse?
You don't have a muse? I don't know if it's one muse or many, but a lot of times they talk to me about what to cut with paper. Sometimes it's cut with paper.
You're hearing voices in your head.
If you want to go that far. One never knows.
Well, what I did notice on the chest of drawers, though, I mean, that is built pretty much like the real thing. I mean, like a full-size chest of drawers. I mean, it's just amazing how you put that together. And I hope Jerry Barnes is watching, so I know he'd appreciate what you're doing here, because he does all this stuff in real size. But it's just amazing that you have the patience to sit and do something like that, and the steadiness of hand. I'm just amazed. I guess I've used that word too much, but that's a real drawer. I mean, you magnify that to 10 times, you'd have the real thing, but it's...
And then even down to the struts and for the side tables. And of course, Barbie needs a dressing table, and every good dressing table has a mirror to it. And what would a dressing table be without drawers that opened up? So, and of course, the problem there is then you can't find the stuff small enough to actually put it in it.
Oh, I'm sure you'll come up with something like hairbrushes and handheld mirrors and combs. I have no doubt in my mind, Christopher, those drawers will be full next time we see you. But,
Now, I don't know if you saw the furniture, did I already talk about that, the furniture for the dollhouse? Okay.
you didn't talk about that giraffe over there. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's, sometimes you just start going, well, what else I can carve up and do? But the first giraffe I tried was with balsa wood, and it's good, but
Wouldn't stand up.
she doesn't stand up.
Okay.
So the next one was with the basswood, and that one will actually, my fingers will stand up.
Well, let's talk about the giraffe, the pattern on that giraffe, the spots, the pattern, whatever. Did you duplicate that from a picture with a real fine line detailed brush, or where did you get the idea for the pattern?
Well, growing up, one of my two favorite animals was a giraffe.
I knew there was a story behind it, all right.
It was that or an elephant, and I figured a giraffe would be easier to carve. And I just always loved the patterns on it. It's, they're fingerprints. There's never the same twice, so
Okay.
it allows the freedom of liberty of how to paint it up.
If somebody wanted to get into this, what advice would you give them? If somebody wanted to get into it, what can you tell them?
Don't expect perfection to begin with. It's a lot of fun. It can be very frustrating. And it's really not that expensive, other than the smaller tools. But you can use your creativity and do just about anything. Of course, last year with the start of the pandemic, I was out in my yard looking at my gravel around my house, and I saw this one stone, and I went, I wonder what I could do with this stone. So I had a Dremel with some
You get that?
diamond bits and went, ooh, I bet it would look good as a chalice. So we went at it, and about 6 hours later, I had that. And for perspective, and that was also one of those, I started trying to hold it with other things, but wound up, I just gotta hold it with my hand and move on from there.
Okay, I got a question from Dr. Allen. He wants to know if you have a favorite piece of all this, and why is it your favorite piece?
If I had a favorite piece, I guess it would be the tool chest.
The tool chest.
Well, now that I say that, it could be the little house, but probably the tool chest. I guess because I like the detail in it of the little lever on the side. It opens, it closes, it's got its own little caddy to sit snugly in the top. And
Yeah, that's another thing. Everything fits perfectly. I mean, people have a hard time in full scale getting it to fit perfectly.
And then I had a great time just making tools to fill it up with.
Obviously, yeah. That's quite a... Now, do you go to shows or things with this? Hobby shows or anything like that?
No,
Are there such things? I don't know.
I would assume there probably is.
Yeah, okay.
This is actually the first time I've ever really shown it to anyone other than maybe a neighbor or two, or, of course, my family. Of course, this was another, I guess I like doing tables, because you can do intricate things with the legs, and then you have to make sure you have 4 legs that look the same.
Yeah.
And as you tell, there's yet another table. I've noticed it's starting to sway back.
Okay. You mentioned that bed that's a work in progress. When did you start working on that bed?
Ooh. I probably started working on that about 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
Yeah,
This bed right here?
that bed right there.
What's taking you so long? What's the challenge there? I'm trying to follow, other than the miniaturization, but,
My hang-up is trying to figure out exactly how to do box springs in a mattress that are true representations of a box spring in a mattress and not just,
do you plan on making it out of the basswood, or you think about another material?
I'm thinking the box wood, or the box springs out of the basswood, and then covering it, and then probably finding some thick foam to make the mattress.
Okay.
That's one of those other projects have come up and it's just kind of been put on the back burner.
Okay.
But that was also one of my favorite ones to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that one.
I'm trying to make out what that is. Hold on. Oh, it said cross with two candles.
A cross with two
You get that?
candles.
Let's see if Conrad can get that, but that's nice. I just, it's, like I said, it's incredible how you see this in your mind's eye and then you turn something that small into reality. That's where I kind of get hung up a little bit, like, where do you start this? And you have to see something in your mind's eye before you put a knife to something, I would think.
Yes,
Okay?
Yeah.
So you have some kind of plan.
right.
You just don't start whittling.
No.
Anyway, it comes out magically.
I was gonna say, like with the paper cutting where I could do something, this is one of those, I have to have the inspiration and it would take hours to actually do it. And a lot of times, it's one of those, you do some, you put it down, you do something else, you come back, you work some more. Of course, especially with the painting, because you gotta let it dry.
Yeah. And you hand paint all these, like you said yourself, and you have several different sizes, obviously, you're working with. And I guess this is kind of one grouping of things that you do. We know you do the paper cutting, and I know you collect coins. I've seen your coin collection one night, and that was fascinating. Maybe you should come back and do that another time. Hopefully you've added to that, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Thought so. What other collection or hobby do you have? The Legos, you mentioned.
Legos? Yep.
Okay.
Should I say it? I write poetry.
You write poetry, do you,
I
sir?
do write poetry.
Well, do you want to recite some of it, or am I putting you on the spot? I don't mean to do that, but...
Unfortunately, I don't commit it to memory.
Okay.
Once I have it, I put it on the paper, if I'm fortunate enough. I know when I did the paper cutting, I said something about getting inspiration when I'm walking the dog. A lot of times that's where some of my best poems have been, and unfortunately, by the time I get home, out of head, gone forever, but the good Lord heard them, so that's all that matters.
Well, that's true. Well, Christopher, I really appreciate you bringing us in. You're a man of many levels, and I'm amazed what you bring each time. It's just another petal in the flower opens up with who Christopher Bircher is, and maybe we can get you back another evening with your coins and maybe some of your poetry. We'll see what we can do with that. So, again, I thank you for being here, and I wish you well, and keep working on this and finish that bed. I want to see what it looks like when you get done. So.
Okay.
Anyway, I hope you at home have enjoyed this. I have immensely. This is just eye-opening. It's just mind-blowing what he does. But next week we've got a program that's a little more close to missions. It'll be the discipleship of Habitat for Humanity. Paul Leary will be with us to talk about that, and watch your emails for how that's going to be done. We're not 100% sure whether it's going to be Zoom or live stream. But we will be here next week with another Covenant Cafe. So I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and enjoy this pretty weather, because man, it is beautiful out there today. But I wish you well, and wish you good night, and go in peace.